I'm Fontanazza with MedAd News, and I'm here at the 34th Annual Manny Awards with ConcentricLife leaders, Jennifer Brekke, founder and president, Michael Austin, Chief Experience Officer, and we're also joined by this evening's Marketer on the Rise honoree, Michael Mazza, and he is the Senior Director of Consumer Marketing at Horizon Therapeutics. So today we're going to talk about the rise of consumer. And first I want to say congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And we'll start off with a question for you.
Perfect.
With more information than ever accessible to patients, how can marketers empower patients while also balancing the importance of the healthcare provider in making health decisions?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's obviously a really exciting time, and the bar has raised dramatically in terms of what consumers expect from us as marketers in terms of transparency, in terms of the delivery of information. There's more information accessible to consumers than ever before, which ultimately is a good thing. There also is obviously an inherent danger to the idea of Dr. Google and how deep consumers get into their own self-diagnosis. So I think what we always have to realize is that we are enablers to allow patients to have proactive conversations with their physicians and really encourage them to be co-pilots in their own healthcare and their own healthcare management. I think in the past, that relationship between the patient and the physician was a very passive one. I think we're in a beautiful new age now where it truly is an equal partnership between the physician and the patient in managing their care, and we're really there to be conduits to provide information and guidance to allow them to do so. But ultimately, the HCP obviously still needs to have a critical role in those decisions.
I love when you said co-piloting. If they can get in that co-pilot position, all the information that is accessible in partnership with the physician is really, that's the magic.
Yep.
That's the relationship we're looking for.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would just add this notion of health literacy, right? It's something we should never take for granted, right? Especially if you work in the industry, you do, some of these, the vernacular becomes second nature, and you tend to forget that somebody, when you put something out there, someone who's reading it, they might not understand it at all, right? And so all of the information we put out there really, again, should just really be a conduit to spur a conversation with the physician. So it's not in lieu of, it's just to help connect to.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think on the brand marketer side, that is one of the biggest challenges, because when you are in it, you can lose a sense of where that health literacy level really lies with patients. And that's something we have to continually check ourselves on and make sure we understand through research that our message is understandable. It has to be understandable to resonate, right? So.
Right, very good. And Michael, how do you see consumers being more involved in their health? And what implications do you see for marketers now with this rise of the consumer and their involvement?
Yeah, so here's a stat for you. Only 66% of millennials actually have a primary care physician. Changed, I think Gen Z, 78% of them had a primary care physician. And then if you go one generation later, the baby boom generation, 85% had primary care physicians, right? So there literally is like, people are taking over from relying on doctors. And I actually think that's only a good thing. Another example is glucose monitoring, right? You once upon a time, that was just for type 2 diabetics or type 1s, right? I actually think prediction 10 years from now, we're all gonna be wearing a patch that tells us what our glucose levels are gonna be, right? So I think it's only a good thing as we rely less on primary care, we begin to rely more on ourselves. And then it's about the technology that allows us to become our own doctors to a degree. And again, we can only go so far, but I think the monitoring, the daily monitoring, so like there's a level of wellness. It's not just when I'm sick, do I need to do something or worry about my health, but you can kind of maintain a level of wellness. So there is this real empowerment of the patient that I think it will only serve us all in the future.
Yeah, I'm similarly very bullish on wearables as we go forward for consumers, because I think, obviously quantitative metrics are undeniable and a great way to kickstart a physician conversation, because you can deny symptoms, you can deny patient feelings, but you cannot deny measurements and readings. And that's, again, I think just a great way to give one more piece to empower the patient to really jumpstart that conversation they want to have with their physician.
And so Jennifer, can you talk about how you're inspired by the patients that we serve, and maybe give some examples of what makes you proud to empower patients in their journey?
Sure. So look, anybody in our field, I feel like you're in this because you're passionate about people and human beings and their health and wellness. And so being very purpose-built as the agency, as we are, as Mike's company is, on health and wellness for our people. I mean, I think that's the spirit of how we come into it. Then you talk about all of the different types of patient populations that we try to serve, and it's just incredibly moving to see a patient go from symptoms and issues to diagnosis to finding the proper treatment, and then a complete change in either quality of life or hopefully a cure. And so if that's not motivating for us to get up and do our work every day, I mean, I'm not sure what else is.
And so what kind of, just in sort of giving folks a reality check, what kind of pressure is that on you as marketers, knowing that you have such a tremendous impact on the trajectory of how a consumer is working with their healthcare and with their healthcare provider? I know we touched on it a little bit, but sort of in closing, how does it feel just personally for you in having that responsibility?
Well, I think that's when you look at a lot of drug development situations and bringing a drug to market, the sense of urgency and knowing that every month the product is not on the market is another set of patients who, in a lot of cases, desperately need that product. So there is a lot of pressure, but it's the good kind of pressure. There's an urgency to get the solution to market as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's the Billie Jean King quote, pressure is a privilege, right? And I think it is, like I said, I think the opportunity to work with these amazing molecules, these amazing therapies, I guess now that you say it, there's a lot of pressure, but again, I just see it as such a privilege to get to help bring these therapies out into the market.
Yeah, I would agree. I would flip it and say for me, it's inspiration. It's what keeps you going on the tougher days. I always say that there are patients out there who are in need of one of my company's therapies and don't know it exists. And my team's job is to fill that gap, right? And that's something you can be proud of day in and day out. And in rare disease particularly, it's one by one by one.
Jennifer, Michael, thank you for joining us this evening. And Mike Mazza, of course, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.